Hey everyone, welcome to the Formula Consulting Group. In this video, we're going to dive deeper into step 5 of the formula and show you how to run due diligence on your interviewers and why doing so will give you a secret weapon to match. If you watched a previous overview video, you'll know that running due diligence on your interviewers is part of the interview phase of a multi-phase strategy we recommend for matching into top programs. We call this strategy the formula. Before we jump into how to due diligence your interviewers, let's discuss why you should run due diligence. You should run due diligence on your interviewers because doing so produces valuable intel you can use to build rapport with your interviewer. And the way to build rapport with your interviewer is by incorporating the intel you find into talking points and questions engineered specifically to create a connection with your interviewer. In other words, this intel will help you pre-plan a conversation that is interesting, beneficial, and enjoyable to both you and the interviewer. Now, you may be asking yourself, why do I have to do so much work ahead of the interview and actually pre-plan a conversation? And the answer is because it's nearly impossible to build rapport in less than 15 minutes with a complete stranger, unless you did your due diligence before the interview and know so much about the interviewer that they're no longer a stranger to you. This allows you to make better use of your limited time because rather than spending valuable minutes trying to extract basic information from your interviewer, you can instead use this time to discuss the strategic talking points and detailed questions you have already pre-engineered to get a positive reaction from the interviewer and impress them. And for those of you who haven't watched our previous videos, the reason it's important to build rapport is because the candidates that match into the best specialties and best programs are the ones that generate the most rapport with their interviewers. Now let's discuss how exactly to do this. The best way to run due diligence on your interviewers, assuming you have absolutely zero pre-existing exposure to them, is by researching 3 specific areas of their background. And those 3 areas are, number 1, their upbringing and personal life, number 2, their education and medical training, and number 3, their publications and recognition. Researching all 3 will provide you with valuable insight into the type of person you are interviewing with, and it will help you come up with a game plan for initiating conversations that generate rapport. So let's start with exactly what type of information you want to look for in the personal lives and upbringing of your interviewers. The first thing you want to answer is, where were they born and raised? This data allows you to name drop your knowledge of their local norms, cultural references, and sports. The second thing you want to answer is, what part of the city do they live in? This data allows you to name drop local restaurants, venues, and activities that your interviewer may be familiar with. The third thing you want to answer is, do they have social media? And if so, is it public? Can you view it? Because if you can, the data in their social media reveals their interests, hobbies, family life, and volunteer work, some of which may overlap with your own. Now, the reason it's important to find this information is because the sum of all this data gives you an indication of the interviewer's personality, which in turn will help you create meaningful conversation, the type of conversation that is engaging and builds rapport. But equally as important is the fact that this information also helps you avoid making any comments or sharing any opinions that are not well received. And finally, to wrap up the bring in personal life section of your interviewer's background, let's go over a good rule of thumb. The only information you should be finding about your interviewer is information that is publicly available, either because your interviewer made it available via their social media or because it's been made available via third parties, such as the institution that they work for via their website. Never do anything stalkerish. If something you are doing makes you uncomfortable, it probably makes those on the receiving end uncomfortable as well. The second area of the interviewer's background that you want to research is their education and medical training. And you do this by answering questions like, where did they complete their internship, their residency, and their fellowship? This data reveals interesting life choices, including whether they change careers, change residencies, or face other difficulties. And it also offers a great source of conversation because interviewers love to talk about themselves, especially the ones that say they don't. The second thing you want to answer is, where did the interview complete undergrad and medical school? This data reveals if they stay close to home or move far away, what their alma mater football team was, and possibly a cultural or political viewpoint. After all, humans are a product of their environment, and where you spend 4 years of undergrad and 4 years of medical school is bound to have impacted your interviewer one way or another. The third thing you want to answer is, where did your interviewer complete high school? Was it a public high school? Was it private? This data can surprisingly reveal a lot about your interviewer, including what their path or journey to success was like, their thoughts on education and socioeconomic factors, and more basic things like, did they grow up in an inner city area or suburban-like community? To wrap up the medical training and education background section, let's go over another helpful rule of thumb. There are some topics that are best left untouched, and those include political affiliations, religious beliefs, and to a lesser degree, but still largely the case, financial. Though there are exceptions, touching on any of these topics carries a risk of potentially harming your candidacy and backfiring. The third area of the interviewer's background that you want to research is their publications and recognition and awards. And you do this by focusing on 2 to 3 publications where the interviewer's name appears first or second in authorship, the publication date falls somewhere within the last 3 to 5 years, the study was noteworthy in some way, or where the subject matter differs from the other publications. You also want to search for any awards that the interviewer received, including academic, research, industry, or even non-medical related. Doing so will allow you to use this data to appeal to their ego, while also demonstrating how much you already know about them, which goes a long way to building a connection with your interviewer and impressing them. Now that we've discussed what areas of your interviewer's background to research and what specific information to look for, let's dive into how exactly to leverage this information to your advantage on the day of the interview. And the best way to leverage this information to your advantage is by incorporating it into questions and talking points. These questions and talking points should be pre-engineered to appeal to your interviewer on a personal, professional, and in some cases, even an emotional level. And the best way to do that is to use the information you found to make your questions highly revealing and highly specific to that person. In other words, don't waste time asking common, general, or boring questions. If there's a strong chance others are asking the same question, don't ask it. Your goal is to stand apart, not sound the same. For example, when your interviewer asks if you have any questions for them, rather than asking a low-value question like, so where are you from? You should instead be asking, can you tell me about your journey growing up in Delhi, India, to becoming a combat medic in the armed forces, to doing residency in New York City, and to now taking over as program director for one of the largest programs on the West Coast? This type of question immediately impresses your interviewer and is a huge step forward to building rapport. And remember, asking generic questions about a program accomplishes nothing more than to confirm that you have not done your homework. And now that we've discussed what 3 areas of an interviewer's background you should research and how to best leverage this information on interview day, let's conclude by a quick explanation on how to organize all this information into an actionable piece of paper that you can either bring with you on interview day or maintain by your side during your Zoom interview. The best thing you can do to organize all this information is to summarize your research into a single PowerPoint slide consisting of 4 quadrants, one for each of the sections we discussed in this video. Additionally, this PowerPoint slide should also include a recent picture of your interviewer to help you identify them quickly and avoid confusion on interview day. And that concludes this video. If you want to check out our future videos where we deep dive into the remaining steps of the formula, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. If there's a question you'd like us to delve into in the future, please leave a comment below. You can also learn more about our services at www.formulatomatch.com and on Twitter @formulatomatch.